Okay. Testing, testing, testing. Okay, here we go. Testing, yes. Hello, everyone. Yes. It's only taking forever. Sure. Cute. Okay. Interesting. How? it's working. It's got this. Okay. Let's see. Okay, now let's go to Here it is. We'll be getting started shortly here. Hope everyone's doing well. I apologize. I'm not too great about the chat here, so I hope people can see something of a chat. If you can, give me some indication of that. Sounds like we have audio anyway, or looks like it too here. Appreciate everyone's being here. All right. Just a couple minutes. Kind of. Let's see here. I was hoping we'd be able to get some chat going. Who's ever here? Try to. Blaine says I can see a chat. That's great. I like that. On here too. Let me see if I can respond. Okay, I'll go anonymous there. Okay, good. Blaine figured out how to get in to tell me who she is. That's great. See, a couple folks have signed in. If you could just sign in with the chat so I can see who's all here, that would be helpful. Oh, hey, Leah. Good to have you here. Wonderful. I see it's actually right at 4:30, and I want to respect everyone's time. So I want to welcome everyone. This is an exciting day for me to be presenting this first webinar for as an overview of this this site. And as we get started, one of the things that I really like when I go to a presentation is when I get a chance to really participate and bring my questions. There's also, of course, an opportunity to invite other people that you might like to collaborate with on a platform like this. And so I thought we could take just a moment or two to have you kind of collect some questions. Some of the best presentations I've done have been when I've had a whiteboard and I can get the kind of questions that somebody or the audience has and try to respond to those as possible. And so if you have any, please just type those in the chat box. I'll try to include that. Now, I had a dream last week. While you're doing that, I'll start this out by saying that I had a dream last week that I was presenting to it seemed like a Sunday school class or something like that, something of my faith tradition. I was relatively comfortable there, but I wasn't really a member. And what it told me was that we are all, and I built CareDesign is to expand on and use our various professional communities to our best advantage, to be able to really collaborate with folks and communicate. We're not quite HIPAA compliant yet, so we can't be absolutely secure, but we are all on one server, which I think is a pretty secure thing, probably better than just texting other people and so on. So my hope is that we can have something in our future that's going to be a secure foundation for getting some work done, and we'll kind of talk about how that happens. But if you have a chance to share this with some other people, that would be great. If you're a Facebook person, to post some things. If you're a Twitter, you can sing away. If you're a LinkedIn person, you can rattle your chain or whatever it is, and we'll get going. And so I know that we're all in a part of groups that learn from each other, and I'm just hoping that this is about 1,000 times better than what we're doing now. Of course, we might also be just trying to get started in our practices and need some marketing and ways to get out and thank our referral sources for what they send us and get back to them with some information about what we found. And so it's also perfect for that. So let me just check the chat room here. All right. I'll try to keep my eye on this as we go here too. One of the questions was how CareDesign can help non-mental health professionals, and it can. It's a secure platform based in professionalism and ethical foundation that can be used by really anyone. Now, there's a sub-profile reality to the platform so that we can actually have people in our support network that help us get things done each day, that can be a part of things too, unlike I think really any other social network that I'm familiar with. That might be a possibility of some electronic health records, but I don't think so. So that's an idea, and it's really pretty broadly applicable. So let's kind of jump in. I wanted to create this overview of CareDesign as your professional best friend forever, and I'm aware that some people can get kind of overwhelmed with the technology, and so I wanted to make sure that this is a no fear, only joy type experience here. And if you have questions, feel free to text me about if I'm unclear, and of course always just give us a call if there's problems as well. But let me get started, and I'm gonna be doing some screen share, and what I'm going to be doing here is to look at my keynote, and let's get started here. And let's actually put this on. I think this way it'll show up a little bit better. So good. So CareDesign.net is a professional network, an opportunity for communication, marketing, resource aggregation, many more things will be rolling out as well as we produce this platform. Since it at some point will be HIPAA compliant, it's simply fairly secure at this point, but it's exciting. Now, I wanted to spend just a moment talking about the membership requirements for the platform. And as I mentioned, it is conceived of as a professional platform. So such that, as you can see, someone who's licensed, credentialed, boarded, certified, endorsed by some professional organization. That professional organization needs to have an ethical guideline of that profession. The individual signing up needs to be able to access those ethical guidelines and be operating under those ethical guidelines. Understanding that if you're not able or willing to do that, there'll be consequences. We would remove you from the platform. But as I mentioned, there's also these potentials for sub-profiles so that our support staff, students, and so on can be linked to the professional practice. But that gives you some sense it's not professional lives. So here it is. We've got the standard login, and down the road here I'll be talking about how you set up a profile. And so as you've signed in, you first get to this page. which is we call the account page. You can see that up on the upper left-hand corner. You can also know that you're in because usually your avatar is going to show up in the top. Now you'll notice as you start looking for other members, you'll see their avatar in the membership, but you can always take a look at the top to see what, to make sure that you know that you're in. And there are basically two. I'll go back and forth in the account. As you might notice here, I'm in my account view. That's the one that's kind of on the left side of the screen there. And if I clicked either the profile on top or the red profile button on the right, I could get to my profile. But this is kind of a handy page because as soon as you sign into this page, you basically have little red blocks there that get you to almost everything that you'll need to know. Oh boy, I get the notice that I don't have a screen sharing going on. Let's see. That's kind of weird. Here. We're screen sharing, present to everyone. Let me try that. Does that solve the problem by any chance? I hope. Okay, she said it does, so that's great. So let me go back to, I think this was the one that was best. Okay, so this was the membership. After one logs in, this, as I mentioned, these red blocks that tell us exactly what we're going to be going over here, but it's a really fast way to access whatever you might be interested in accessing. So the first thing is to create, of course, a professional identity. And so this is where we set up our professional profile. One, of course, has choices these days about establishing a making your own website, and there's some relatively inexpensive ways to do that. One can be a part of a profile on a provider, on an employer's website, and have some choice about that. But these options are certainly not free. Psychology Today has a pretty good following these days. And so you have certainly choice about your own profile in that situation, but it's certainly not free. There are profiles made for us by some of the rating agencies and things out there. So those are free, but we don't have any choice about it. So one of the things that I wanted to do with CareDesign was to create this option as a free choice option. So you have complete control over what's being presented and how your professional identity is being described. Plus, it's absolutely free. What we ask is to make sure that we have your license information. We have a vetting fee because it takes us a little time to make sure that you are who you are and so on. But in general, it's going to be free ongoing. And for the folks today, there's going to be some special deals. One of them is to waive that vetting fee. And so it would be absolutely free to get started today. Now, the next thing is to describe some of the buttons that you'll see. I don't know if back here, if you noticed on the unsubscribe here, because I've subscribed, that changes to unsubscribe if you hit it. And what these are is an opportunity to get an email if anything changes on a given page. And so if you're interested in a particular person's practice, or let's say that they tend to change their profile some, you can subscribe, and every time that profile gets changed, then you get an email that says that it's changed. Now, I also wanted to talk about this concept of privacy, and there are many options for us to develop privacy groups. We can develop our own privacy groups, but let's start out with these that are the main ones, the given ones, and these aren't. This kind of confused me when I first saw it. Me only means that only I can see my profile. So that's, I've established a profile, but I'm not sharing it with anyone else but me. And then there's the public profile, which, as it sounds, is going to be anyone who comes to the site, wants to look at that, can see that profile. Then members are members of CareDesign. So these will be either paying members or free members. And then there's colleagues, which are another subset that's basically kind of set in, kind of like a friend group or whatever in another social networking site. And so you might share some things. And actually, when you're setting up a profile, so you can have some parts shared to the public, for example, and some parts shown to just colleagues. So if there were some more specific referral information or whatever that you wanted your colleagues to know about, you might want to do that. And you'll notice here that there's this on the far left. You'll see that little yellow key. Whenever you're in your own profile, you can, for the most part, click on that little yellow key, and that will bring up this privacy option for you. Now, once you've established a professional description, a profile, something about the way you like to work and what you like to do, and we'll get back to this later on. But then you can set up practices, and I gave a couple examples here of my own. I go up to Jamestown Regional Medical Center, and they have a psychiatric inpatient unit, and then I do some forensic practice on the side. And so, I can set up all my practices, all the different people that are part of that, and staff members that are included, and so on. Now it's very easy to add a practice. You just click on the little red button that says add a practice and describe. Of course, if you've set up some other kind of description along the way, Psychology Today or whatever it is, it's easy to just copy and paste into that. And these are some of the other fields that you're going to encounter. And we'll probably come back and talk about these if we get a chance. Now, one of the big things that's different about CareDesign compared to other places, like, for example, Psychology Today, I don't believe there's any way to communicate with other people given that. Now, there are some chances to communicate with people in the silos of electronic medical records. Those are usually very expensive, and those are limited to that electronic medical record network. Rarely does it extend beyond the confines of that particular network. Secondly, there's this idea of secure messaging apps and platforms now, a variety of them out now. Now, not all of them are HIPAA compliant, so one has to be kind of careful about that. They're all fairly expensive. They're all pretty kind of boring, only about the communication, not much in the way of fun to them. As you'll see, I've tried to build that in a second. And of course, it needs the buy-in from the other party too, and they're outside of their own network. So some limitations there. Now, social networks otherwise have been out for a while now, Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and so on. I tried to make them work for myself, and I really had great difficulty. I'm kind of an old guy from a technology standpoint, and I made a New Year's resolution, I think 2 years ago, that I was going to really try to get on board. So I tried all these different platforms, and I really looked at them from a perspective of possibly using them for my professional life. And I was really kind of frustrated once I kind of figured out how they worked. It really didn't seem like they offered what I was looking for anyway. So I designed CareDesign, or I was in the process of doing that. And we, as I mentioned, is if once we get enough following going, we're going to be HIPAA compliant as soon as we can possibly do that. But we also want to have some fun doing this. And so this is going to be an inexpensive form of having some fun. Secure messaging, as you see here, it's much like an email in any other kind of program. We will ultimately look up the members of other people in the network, and we can just access them. Let's say we wanted to see or access Miss Moneypenny here, and so we would just click on connect or message, and we draft an email type message to her, and it acts pretty much like that. Now, the other big thing that most programs aren't allowing is the opportunity to delegate. And I dare say that all of us that are relatively busy could not do what we do if it was not possible for us to delegate and have some folks look up things or make contacts for us. And so we developed this concept of sub profiles to go with the platform. And so the idea here is that these are individuals responsible to us and using this platform in a professional way. We don't have time today, probably. Create descriptions, and so I could say call so and so if you're interested in this piece of things, or if you're referring a patient to me for forensic work, this is the person to contact, or if you're interested in CareDesign, then do that, and so on. So that's hugely helpful. This is an example of the sub profiles of my account page, and so you can look down and see that I've established these people along the way as kind of working with me. Now let's move on to the more the kind of fun and exciting pieces of this, though, and that is about the resource aggregation and the kind of things that are fun to collect and use in our practice. And so the first thing, of course, is books. Many of us use books. Screen not sharing. I got another message here that the screen was not sharing. I hope that's not the case. I remedied it once, but I'm worried that it might still be a problem. Anybody else having trouble with screen not sharing? Okay, I'll kind of keep going here. So we have books and a bibliography. My wife and I have collected good psychoeducational books along the way, and so here's an opportunity for that. Now, as you notice, there's as a description, there's a lot of this comes in from Google when one sets up a new book, kind of automatically. Let's see here. Still a problem with screen sharing. Let's see here. We're screen sharing and presenting to everyone. Let me try just turning it off and back on again, maybe. Just try to. Okay, this is Lindy that's calling in. I turned it back on. So it sounds like we're back on board now. So it's good. All right, sounds good. So under the, and I apologize, but let's say we're going to add a new book. This brings in a lot of metadata from Google that you don't have to even type in. But then, of course, there's a chance to put in like the benefits. I put on the bottom right there. I said I'm a huge Burns fan, practical and powerful in his impact. As you can also notice on the bottom left-hand corner, there's a chance for a video comment. This is throughout the whole platform that's a possibility. And of course, just the verbal comments as well, or chatting like. Now, there's also this concept of joining a particular reference. And so in this case, and this is the bottom part of my profile, I think it is, where it shows which books I've joined, which events I've joined, practices. This is, a variety of places that you can join things, which is kind of being interested and involved with that particular resource. It's another place where we can get updated information with RSS feeds or simple syndication, where we can use an RSS reader. And so, for example, when we get started with maybe music or books or something, we might want to be notified whenever there's a new resource that's been posted, and it's a handy way to do that. We have the capability of pulling in movies. Now, of course, not a lot of times this is not the full movie. There are some times when that's allowed, when it is public domain and can be used in that way. But mostly this is a resource for now. And again, the same kind of discussion, description, comments about how it can be used clinically, and comments from other folks. There's a piece of this in which we can create our own blog. If you've had some interest in developing a blog somewhere along the line, this would be again a very inexpensive way to. Collaborations are wonderful in terms of being able to really take anything. Could be a research project, could be a patient, could be some sort of a paper that you're working on, and you can pick other members and form collaborations around any kind of issue. I set up this example of a call schedule, and then you apply the privacy groups for whatever you want for that collaboration. It can be a public collaboration, it can be a private collaboration, whatever you like. There's of course the way for documents to be exchanged. In this case, I just made the example of a journal that one might want to be exchanging, and that's helpful. Events can be listed. In this case, I went to the American Music Therapy Association meeting recently, and several months ahead of that, I posted that was going to be something I was interested in, an event, and so and I even noticed that the platform actually automatically took it off after the event had completed. So it's a nice automatic kind of feature. There are forms. Now, forms are for that already that can cover a wide variety of things. And so these are discussion groups about particular therapeutic techniques. These might be about particular medications or treatment modalities or locations. And so that's another nice opportunity. There are groups one can feature. These could be 12-step groups or recovery groups. In this case, I'm a part of a mankind integration group, and we have people that might want to come to that and be part of that as a member. One of the most interesting things for me, and potentially very most powerful things, is around music. I think that music is an extremely powerful modality, both for good and ill sometimes. Not unusual that I hear from substance abuse patients and things that music plays a role in their relapse or in their using patterns. But I also think that there's some extremely healing music out there that can really touch us. I remember this "Don't Give Up" song was out when I was in medical school, and there were many days that I was kind of discouraged, and that would come to mind, and I'd play it, and it would be uplifting. Now, notice that there's a preview here. What we decided to do is link this to iTunes, and it's about a 30-second preview. We want to maximally reimburse the artists that are producing this kind of content and allow them to be recognized and hopefully grow. Lots of different platforms that are streaming music now. It's interesting that many of those aren't reimbursing the artists very well, especially the smaller ones. And so we thought this would be the best way to do that. And so again, same kind of features. You can join and follow certain pieces of music. You can comment on them, sample them, share them. I also included a lyrics section for the music. And so if people would like to do their own performance, if people play guitar or piano or some other instrument, I think that there's another therapeutic level for people that might be interested in performing or even just playing around, jamming around a particular piece of music. Now, programs are another completely different kind of part of this, and this comes from my own desire to create some psychoeducational programming that could be used by night staff. Quite honestly, when I developed this, that was what was going through my head, is that there are nurses and patients have a lot of relatively free time in evenings, or may wake up and have it any time of night, really. And there may not be a therapist around that particular time, but there's still a lot of psychoeducational content that needs to be shared with, especially someone in a short hospital stay. And so I developed these to help fill in that gap and help us to be able to get more information in a short amount of time. So, for example, there's a smoking cessation one, self-harm. One that we tend to use quite a bit here is called Choosing Life, where it's a continuum, try to educate people about what a crisis is, what to do in an emergency. And as you notice that there can be attachments to these programs, in this case, a journal that goes along with the education to try to help people get this information a little bit better, understand it, and to put it into place a little bit better. Another part of the site is to understand and gather sites. We're all using various sites to our advantage. Some of us have had good experiences, bad experiences, and so on. So in this case, there's some examples of Simpler as a site that contains healthcare hashtags. Ask a Patient, which is an interesting site that has people rate their tolerance of medications and other treatments. Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale site, and others like that. Next is YouTube videos, and as you know, there's some music that's not available. You can see that Garth Brooks was not willing to put his music up on iTunes, but it's out there on YouTube for free. So I don't quite understand how that benefits him. But nevertheless, sometimes there are situations where you can't get music, especially, and of course there's videos that are out there that aren't available elsewhere. Brene Brown, this and gratitude, and it's just a perfect little opportunity to see it, comment on it, perhaps share it with other people. Then there's a whole other piece that it includes the store, or the opportunity. If you have worksheet, that's another component of the platform, that those can be listed. And this gives you some indication of the price structure that we have. Now, as I mentioned, the free level of membership is at the just to post one's practice or professional profile and their practices profile. When we start using the functionality of the site, then it starts to cost a little bit. Now the creative collaborator level of membership, as you see, that does a tremendous amount of things, such as add of these. Enlightened Educator is the highest level right now. We do have electronic medical record and assessment tools and things like that in the HIPAA compliant piece, but that one is a little more, and that has the capability of forming blogs and posting programs and so on, which takes a little bit more in the way of server power and bandwidth. Then, as you can see, on the right is where we start looking at the sub profiles. And so, for now, we've broken this down to up to 3 sub profiles, then up to 10, up to 20. Of course, you can call us for anything that might be of interest beyond that. And then I listed that vetting fee that we're going to probably be waiving here, at least as we get started. But that's an idea. Now, just to kind of go over this, some folks are just really interested and ready to sign up right away. Sometimes I can just kind of feel like that myself, that I've seen something and I like it so much that I just want to get started with it, give it a try. And this is the process that one goes through. If you were to click and want to get started, this is the process that one would go through. It's fairly simple. It does include giving us your discipline or your professional identity. There's a variety of membership types are already in there. If it's not listed, of course, we can add that and work need a license number in a state which where you're practicing, or something that helps us to confirm your professional identity. And so we can vet you with that. The second step is to just load up an avatar, and as you can see, if you bypass this, that's easiest to do right when you're getting started. But if you bypass, you can go to the account page and up on the top, and as you might notice that little sub menu that's on each of the account page and the profile page has the vast majority of connections too. So there's a lot of easy ways to navigate around and to find out what you might need. You can always invite your colleagues, and that's on the very bottom. You can see there where it says invite a colleague. This is the kind of thing where it pops up and you can message whoever you like that would, that you might encourage them to be a part of this. Now, like I said, we're going to offer some discounts here too as we get started. So I've got half price discount codes for anything, and for the short run here we'll be doing that. And so I really think it's a kind of a no-brainer that this is a really good deal. As we set up practices, I mentioned, file your professional and add a practice. It's easily done as well. Just click the little red button on top, and there it is. Add a practice. You describe that that you have for that practice. You can define what your hours are and your who comes to the practice, and eligibility, the process for getting in. You can really make it your own. And in general, the fields, unless they're required fields, they will not show up as empty fields unless they'll show up once you put some content in them. So that's kind of nice. Now, we also are making available, just for today anyway, an opportunity to connect certain providers that we would typically be charging money for, as a way of connecting providers so that they can collaborate on things. One of the things that struck me when I was in Jamestown once was this woman who had a daughter who was really not getting very nicely close, and she was really frustrated not getting her doctors to talk to each other. And so I really heard that and said, I'd really like to do something differently about that. So I came up with this Google form to be able to get certain providers connected. So if you have a sense of things that need that, then that's another way to do that. So that really is the overview that I feel like we had time for today. So I haven't seen any extra questions coming through, but I really do appreciate you all tuning in today and getting a chance to go over the platform. And give us a call, give me an email anytime with any other questions. So unless I see any others, I think I'll be signing off, and just hope to interact with you socially and professionally at some point.